Good evening, members, officers and members of the public, and welcome to the council meeting of East Cambridgeshire District Council. I do note that the agenda says annual meeting. Thank you for pointing out that error. Agenda item 1 is public question time. We'll proceed with up to 15 minutes of public questions. Jane, do we have any questions?
We do not.
Thank you. We move to agenda item 2, apologies for absence. Jane?
We've had apologies from Councillor Gareth Wilson.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
Chairman, Councillor Martin Goodall.
Thank you. Agenda item 3 is declarations of interest. Are there any members who wish to declare and disclose all pecuniary interests or other interests in any items on the agenda? Councillor Goldsack.
Just to note that as a county councillor we sat through a debate on local government review. I don't think it applies here, as I think the legal officer has got some means of covering it, but I think it's best that I think there's 4 of us in the room that are twin hatters, and that we recognise the fact that we've been through this debate or a similar debate already.
Yeah, we've got those, Jane. And Maggie, I think you were going to...
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was just going to say, for consistency with the County Council, I have provided the 4 members with a dispensation in respect of agenda item 10.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Agenda item 4 is the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 18th of September 2025, which are included in the papers. May I take it that the 18th of September minutes are agreed and are a correct record?
Yes, Chair.
Everyone happy with that? Agenda item 5 is Chair's announcements. I do have 2. One is a polite reminder to all councillors to make sure that they have completed their data protection training, for those if you make sure everyone's done that. I would also like to take this opportunity for us just to take a moment to recognise the service of our Chief Executive. On behalf of the Council and the community, we're all here to serve. I'd like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our Chief Executive, John Hill, as he retires after an extraordinary tenure. John stands among the longest-serving Chief Executives in local government, a testament not only to his dedication, but to the depth of trust and respect he has earned over so many years. His leadership has shaped the Council through many seasons of challenge and change. He has steered complex decisions with calm, courage and clarity, always with the best interests of our residents at heart. His work, so often carried out quietly without fuss or expectation of praise, has strengthened the foundations of this community in ways that will be felt for many years to come. Today, as we mark his retirement, we acknowledge not just the role that he held, but the person that he is to us, steady, principled and so deeply committed. It has been a privilege to serve alongside him, and I now invite all members to join me in offering our sincere gratitude and warmest wishes for the years ahead. I know that some others, would like to say a few words, and I invite those to do so. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you. This is a pretty epic day, and obviously today, we do mark the final full council meeting attended by our Chief Exec, John. And I know you didn't want to fuss, John. You said it, but you didn't seriously think that you were going to get away from here after 30 years of service without saying something. So I'm really sorry. You're just going to have to grin and bear it for a bit. What none of us saw coming is that this final full council meeting for John would also be the one where effectively voting on the future abolition of this council. Not that the two things are related, of course, but there is a certain poignancy there. John joined the council in 1995 as Assistant Chief Executive. He became our Chief Executive in December 2000, and he was, of course, seconded to the CPCA in 2018 as Joint Chief Exec, where he served until July 2021. And under John's stewardship, the council's delivered major community projects, set up and successfully operated as shareholder of 2 hugely successful trading companies, maintained an incredible financial position through very difficult times, and guided us through a global pandemic. John has overseen the council's emergence as a national leader in community-led development, and of course he's carried significant responsibilities beyond our district. He's served as police area returning officer and combined authority returning officer, and overseeing a myriad of other elections and referenda along the way. I suspect he's long lost count of how many. And John's belief in democracy and his careful management of elections and his willingness to take on regional duties have been a huge asset to our whole area. Leaders and chief executives do have a very special working relationship in the running of a council, and it's testament to John that he's worked successfully with so many leaders over the years. And I contacted a few of the past leaders to get their thoughts, John. And Brian Ashton wishes you a very, very long and happy retirement. Peter Mokes always appreciated your very straightforward attitude and your determination. John said what he meant and he meant what he said, is what he told me. And it made life for him much easier than might have been expected. And James Palmer, who's with us today, wanted to pay special tribute. And James said that the role of a chief executive in a local authority is a very difficult tightrope to tread. Being all things to all people is notoriously difficult, and doing so whilst gaining the respect of particularly partisan individuals is a notable skill. And when he became leader in 2013, he says, I think it was the first time that John had worked with someone his age, even though he points out he's younger, of course. That he says, we formed a strong working relationship. Our first major task together was to restructure the council, which was a difficult move that would see 11 senior members of staff and 11 councillors lose their positions. It wasn't easy for either of us, but we knew the savings made would be transformational for the council, and we were confident that what we were trying to achieve was the right thing to do. The first test built up a level of mutual trust between John, myself and Charles Roberts, which went on to see us deliver major transformation in East Cambs. Working together, we pressurised the County Council to deliver the Ely Southern Bypass, worked with developers to open Ely Leisure Village and built Hive Leisure Centre, and alongside this we fought to gain the charter for the market from the County Council, which has allowed Ely markets to expand from Thursdays only to multiple market days, and we formed the East Cambs Trading Company. And John then joined me and Charles as joint chief executive at the Combined Authority, and together we delivered Peterborough University and Surham Railway Station whilst fighting the relentless power and control of the Whitehall blob. I'm sure this affable Baggies fan would have had an easier life if I hadn't rocked up, but I like to think he enjoyed the ride and learnt a lot from it. And I certainly learnt a lot from John, most importantly that white wine comes from Burgundy and red wine comes from Bordeaux and rosé from Provence. I know John had planned to retire a while ago, and I apologise profusely to Julia for any part that I played in delaying their retirement dream. And he wishes you both the very best for a long, healthy, enjoyable and well-deserved next chapter, obviously when Julia joins you. And Charles Roberts said, I had the very good fortune to work with John for about 8 years in various roles as a district councillor, leader of the council, deputy mayor and strategic advisor for the CPCA. In all of those roles, John and I never so much as raised a voice to each other. We had a great working relationship. John nurtured me when I first became a district councillor, then wisely guided me as I took on ever more challenging roles. Very fortunate to have had him nearby. John is wise, insightful, strong and tenacious. He's a man of absolute integrity, and he's led me and many others by the example he's set. I miss working with John. I always will. I know a great many others will feel the same way. Of course, I wish him all the best for the future. And from me, John, a huge thank you on behalf of the whole council, the trading companies and the people of East Cambridgeshire for your very long service and your excellent running of elections, your innovation, your mentoring of staff and members over so many years and your calmness in a crisis, and really your absolute belief in public service. And thank you for your invaluable advice to me personally on so many different subjects, which has generally been administered in your office through the medium of lots of diagrams and drawings. I'm hugely grateful. We will all miss you, and we wish you and Julia, when she joins you, the very best of long and happy retirements in beautiful Yorkshire.
Councillor.
So, John, I want to join the wishes for you to have a long and happy retirement. I think we both came here from Birmingham, although I can't claim to be a long-term Brummie, but nevertheless, we both came here from Birmingham, and I think we have that in common. And I remember your early task, which was a nice, simple one. We just won the election, and just before the election, the then council had sold what is now Jubilee Gardens for housing, and your first task was to try and untangle that. And so I think forever, and quite often when I go across Jubilee Gardens and see people really enjoying it, or when there's the eel fair there, there's all sorts of things that happen there. And you managed to untangle what was a very difficult contractual issue, and I think that will stand in good stead for the people of Ely and East Cambridgeshire for a very long time. So thank you for that. And also the other thing that I always enjoy regularly, although sadly I get less time to be there now, is the farmers market, which again was started under your leadership. And it's a wonderful market. I'm sure everyone has been, but if you haven't, you must go. And there's such a variety of foodstuffs there, and it's really nice to talk to the producers. And of course, it's bringing in footfall to our wonderful market town. And elections, you've run them really well. I think I've probably lost more than I've won, but I have won some. But I've always been convinced that the result is fair and that it's true and it reflects what the voters actually voted for. And that takes a skill. It's a long night, and bringing that team together, holding them together, and helping us, whether we've won or lost, to feel confident in the process, really important. So you've had a long and illustrious career here, and you deserve, and I hope you get, a really long and happy retirement.
Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Bellicott.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I know I joked last time that John had been here longer than I had been here. Even Councillor Bailey was elected when I was the grand old age of 2. I think Councillor Wilson before, but I wouldn't remind him of that. First thing I did after the election was I went to see John, and he managed to explain decades of work and culture at this council via a Venn diagram. And it worked. I remember that Venn diagram to this day. He put offices on one side, members on the other, and regions where those overlap and push each other respectfully. And ultimately, I think that reflects that East Cambridge District Council really does succeed because of robust political vision, but also trust in devoted officers. And that's only possible with such a devoted leader. John commands the most enormous respect. Everyone sort of, if he enters the room, everyone goes, oh God, John's here, better behave now. I have enormous personal respect for him, obviously. He said my name at the count and followed that process that Councillor Kane so eloquently talked about, and that was the best moment ever. That was the most special moment of my life. And he's helped me to feel competent and trusted since then, and now I would like to retire after a lifetime of service as well. But my residents in Soham South and Wicken also have an unsung champion, and a diligent steward of their money, a stickler for quality and competence. They're going to be in good hands because of his legacy, and so are the people that have grown up in the district he's served for more than my whole life.
Thank you. Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was fitting from our side of the chamber that our remarks about John Hill should be bookended at one end by the leader of our political group at that time who appointed him, and at the other end by the leader of the group at the time that John retires. So that we've managed to achieve that tonight. John has indeed been a fixture as Chief Executive at East Cambridgeshire for a quarter of a century, and for half the lifetime of this council, therefore. I've known him for less than half the time he's been Chief Executive, but he is a constituent of mine. And he shares a love of my home island of Jersey, which makes up for a lot, and on which subject we have frequently reminisced when the business of a meeting has been concluded. I shall certainly miss those reminiscences and the wider conversations we had about politics, local and beyond. So indeed, our remarks are bookended twice because Charlotte shares a particular place with you, and so do I, albeit a different one. Unlike my colleague Charlotte, who appointed John to his post, I've never had the opportunity to engage with John from the position of being leader of this council. I'll never know, but I would have hoped that the experience would have been the same. I wish John the very best for his retirement. I'm sure that he will have much to occupy him, or if he doesn't at the moment, he will find some very quickly.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Goldsack.
Thank you. I'm rising to my feet to say a few words, only to prolong the agony for John, because I know he will be hating every minute of it. I will keep this very brief. I had 2 years as chair of the council. I couldn't have done it without John, not just sitting at my right-hand side, but being at my right-hand side and all the good advice that he gave. And I will remind him that he still owes me a bottle of wine. But John, a very happy retirement, and I'm sure I speak for the people from East Cambridgeshire on this matter, not on every matter, but on this matter, and wish you and your family all the best for the future. Good man.
Thank you.
Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly. Like Mark and the current chairman, I had 2 years with John, and thank him for his help on that, and it was very helpful all the way through. And on a personal note, I'm going to miss our chats around. Councillor Kane mentions Birmingham. We support 2 different teams, both within Birmingham. Well, technically the Albion's ground is just outside the city of Birmingham. But we won't talk about the other team, Small Heath Alliance. But look forward to your retirement, and hopefully the Albion will get to the Premier League, because it means Villa will then get guaranteed 6 points. So.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
We move on to agenda item 6, which are petitions. Are there any petitions to be presented to council? No. Agenda item 7, notice of motions under Procedure Rule 10. We have received a motion under Procedure Rule 10, but we are also in receipt of an agreed amended motion that has been circulated to all members. Councillor Inskip, you wish to propose?
Yes, Chair.
And you have a seconder?
Chair, I'd like to second, thank you.
And you reserve your right to speak.
And I will reserve my right.
Councillor Inskip.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as members will see, we have an amended motion. I submitted the original motion together with Councillor Colbert. However, Councillor Horgan approached me with some suggestions on how to amend and I think add to the motion. I very much welcome that, and I think we had a good discussion on how we could take that forward. And I was very happy to work with him on those changes. I believe that those have added to the original motion, and I very much hope when we come to the vote that the council as a whole will find able to support the motion before us. So turning to the subject matter before us, Chair. We currently have, as it says in the motion, 473 long-term empty homes, properties that have stood unoccupied for more than a year. That's nearly 500 potential homes lying idle at a time when families are struggling to find housing in the district. Even a slight improvement this year in the figures, so they are getting a little bit better. It still means there's still a significant number of amount of the housing stock that is unused, and that's a real waste. A previous empty homes strategy dates back to 2006. That's nearly 20 years ago, and in policy terms, that's a long time. And since then, the housing landscape has changed, powers have changed, and best practice in local government has moved on. The LGA's 2023 report, a practical approach for councils on dealing with empty homes, makes clear that the councils that take a proactive and coordinating approach, where they can combine support for owners with proportionate enforcement, can achieve some real results. Different approaches have been taken in different places, but there is quite a lot of good practice around. So that I'll just run through and give you some examples of of what other councils are doing elsewhere. So Leeds City Council has been working for over a decade with their empty homes officer team, combining advice, small grants and enforcement, and have been able since 2012 to bring over 6,000 homes into use. In Cornwall, they are using a revolving loan scheme with their partner Lendology, and that finances works to bring empty properties back to a habitable standard. The loans are repaid and then reused, so effectively that money gets recycled. So really good way of using sustainable investment. South Norfolk and Broadlands District Council launched a report and empty portal and a public dashboard. So they're encouraging residents to help identify and track properties that are empty. And also, as part of that, they celebrate their local successes. And Durham County Council uses empty dwelling management orders and some targeted compulsory purchase orders, but only as a last resort. So there are examples that with a refreshed strategy of, and dedicated resources and a balance between support and enforcement, progress can be made. The LGA notes that tackling long-term empties is one of the fastest and best ways to increase housing supply, cut blight and improve access to housing. And that's exactly what we're seeking to do in this motion. And we're not reinventing the wheel, we're updating our strategy. The motion directs officers to develop a new empty homes strategy by replacing the 2006 and the 2022 documents. That strategy will look at clear district targets to reduce long-term empties, review of all the fiscal levers that could be used, including things like council tax premiums and exemptions, a business case for revolving empty homes loan fund, looking at an empty homes partnership with housing associations and community-led housing groups and so on, and a report, an empty portal. So it's blending sort of, the ambition to do much more, but with practicalities in terms of what we're going to do. And it's not about punishing neglect, it's really about unlocking opportunity. Every home brought back into use saves us money in the long term, supports local trades who are making those homes habitable again, and helps meet our housing needs without needing that further housing development. So I think, Chair, this motion is about a smart, forward-looking approach. It's about giving officers the tools and the mandates to turn empty homes into thriving homes again, something that our residents, our environment, our community and our local economy will benefit from. So with that, Chair, I really commend the motion to you and hope that you can all support it when we come to the vote.
Thank you, Councillor Inskip. Are there any other speakers to this motion? Councillor Colbert.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'm so pleased to see this before us tonight. I'll try not to repeat too much of what Councillor Inskip said, but there are tools which are now available to us which will make currently unoccupied houses available as homes for people which are desperately needed, and moreover just tidy up the general scene. I've been approached by residents in my ward who've been seriously distressed by the state of some houses that they live near. It's an undeniable fact that a long-term unoccupied house can deteriorate significantly. They lower the tone of the area, they're potentially an attraction for vermin, graffiti, they're just a nuisance. So using whatever carrot and stick approaches we found are available to us, I think we should proceed with this as proposed by Councillor Inskip and seconded by Councillor Horgan, who I've been very pleased to work with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. When I first read this proposal, I couldn't make my mind up exactly what I thought, because as far as I could see, it was either a good idea or a very good idea. And I think, having studied it a bit more, I think it's a very good idea. Clearly, we need housing. Clearly, it's ridiculous to have houses that could be habited just sitting there with ivy growing up them and people going inside and turning into drug dens and things. I mean, we don't want that. This is a good idea, and there's a side benefit, and it's good to see that then when there's something that's a straight common sense matter, that the two parties either side of the centre line here are working together, and I commend it. And I've now thought about it, and I think it's a very good idea instead of just good. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hunt. Councillor Trapp.
Yes, just very quickly. 2A, it says a revolving empty homes loan fund. I'm not sure what that was meant by that.
Councillor Inskip, would you address that when you sum up? Yes, thank you. Councillor Goldtop?
Yeah, I'd just like to say a short word. I think the content of the motion is terrific. I think it's exactly what we should be doing. But I just want to say a few words on the behind the scenes, getting the amendment to the table today. And I am very pleased to have played a very tiny part, but I commend Mark and Keith and everybody that was involved in bringing together something that Bill has summed up very nicely into just quite simply a very good idea and a very good set of deliverables. So congratulations and more of it. Thank you.
Are there any other speakers before the seconder?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to start by thanking Councillor Mark Inskip and his fellow members for their willingness to work with me on preparing this revised motion to the original. I'd also like to thank Councillor Colbert for allowing me to second this motion by standing aside. I know how passionate she is about empty homes, so it only goes to show that these changes embody all that is best about democracy working for the good of the people. As this motion clearly tells us, long-term empty homes are a national problem needing a local solution. And whilst many homes are empty for perfectly legitimate reasons, even one home that remains unnecessarily empty is one too many. As we know, there are many reasons why homes are empty for many months. It could be the home is uninhabitable and is awaiting major repairs. It could be that the owner has moved into a care home or, sadly, a hospice. Many homes are empty whilst probate is being arranged. As I say, all are perfectly legitimate reasons for a home to be empty. We all recognise that any home diverted from being empty for any longer than necessary is one property that a desperate family can make their future home. Therefore, we should do everything within our power to support that transition. This revised motion recognises that our policy and strategy for tackling empty homes will benefit from a refresh. Similarly, encouragement of property owners to act is both a sensible and a responsible path for this council to pursue. Our solution is not all stick and will include carrots, such as advice, information and signposting of organisations who can help with affordable loans, and will be underpinned by campaigns to inform owners of the options available. I am delighted to second this motion as I sincerely believe in it and therefore have no hesitation in wholeheartedly recommending it to this chamber for our full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Horgan. Councillor Inskip.
Thank you, Chair. I'll keep my remarks brief, but I will address Councillor Trapp's point. So the revolving empty homes loan scheme, the example I actually mentioned when I was proposing the motion was what it's recently been launched in Cornwall. So they have, there's an organisation called Lendology CIC, so it's a not-for-profit organisation that administers loans. Property owners of an empty home can apply for a loan to renovate that home and to bring it back to habitable standards. They then repay that loan, and then Lendology then have the funds to do it for the next property and so on. So effectively, you need to make a certain amount of money available initially for the scheme to start, but then that money gets recycled as each property owner pays off their loan. I'm not going to prolong the debate because I don't think there are many points to answer. I'm just very pleased to see that we have got support across the chamber, and certainly just to reiterate, I was very pleased in the way that we worked together on this, and let's hope, as I think we're going to see, that we get support across the chamber when we come to vote.
Thank you, Councillor Inskip. So we now move to the vote. Can I ask all those in favour, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you very much, everyone. We move to agenda item 8, which is quick questions from members, but we have received no questions from members. Agenda item 9 is asking for the Council to approve the Council Tax Reduction Scheme from the Finance and Assets Committee on the 25th of September 2025 as set out in the agenda. May I have a proposer?
Yes, happy to propose, Chair.
Councillor Sharp, and a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair, and reserve my right.
Thank you. Councillor Sharp, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. Very briefly, I'd like to propose this recommendation. It went through the Finance and Assets Committee on the 25th of September, and the recommendation is that Council retains the current scheme with the 8.5% minimum contribution level. That recommendation is based on the principle that everyone should make at least a small contribution towards the council tax charge. For those families and residents in low incomes, there is more support available within the housing team, which includes advising them of benefits, discounts and exemptions, and providing exceptional hardship payments where there is need. So there is a safety net for those who are even struggling with the 8.5%. But our side feel that the principle that it shouldn't be a nil charge, there should be a principle of at least paying something towards those services. But I'm happy to propose.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers to this? Councillor Kane.
Thank you. First of all, I note the wording of this is that members felt it was challenging to value a free service, therefore it should have a cost. You will note that the votes went 6 in favour and 6 against. So it was only some members who felt that. Half the members didn't feel that. And I am one of those. I don't think it is right to charge the very poorest any contribution towards the council tax. With my other hat on, I see some dreadful situations for people and how difficult it can be to get the benefits to which they're entitled and to manage their lives on extremely low incomes. I don't think we should be charging those people anything towards their council tax at all. So having voted against this at the committee, I will be voting against it again at this meeting.
Thank you, Councillor Kane. Are there any other speakers? No? Councillor Bovingdon?
Nothing more to add, Chair. I think this has been debated, as Councillor Kane has mentioned, and it was a split vote, but the vote was very much that we stick with what we have, and I'd like to propose that we stick with that. Thank you.
Councillor Sharp?
Thank you, Chair. Nothing really to add to what has been said, and I understand what Councillor Kane's saying. There was a split vote at the committee, but obviously it's before us to, in my opinion, to vote for or against, and propose that we. I recommend that we stick with the current scheme. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. We move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And all those against, please raise your hands. That's carried. Thank you. Item 9.2 is asking for the Council to adopt the Anti-Fraud and Corruption Strategy from the Audit Committee on the 21st of October 2025 as set out in the agenda. May I have a proposer?
Happy to propose, Chair.
Thank you. And do you have a seconder?
Chair, second, reserve my right.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, would you like to say a few words?
Only very briefly, Chair, that I'm more than happy to recommend to full Council the adoption of the updated Anti-Fraud and Corruption Strategy as indicated in the papers, and to point out that we did discuss this at committee and it was unanimously agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Brown. Are there any other speakers? Councillor Vellacott?
Very briefly, Chair, just to thank the Council and its officers for their work on anti-fraud. The document's a really comprehensive approach. The auditors are very keen that this be adopted, and this is a widespread policy across local government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brown, do you have anything else to add?
No.
We move to the vote. May I ask all those in favour, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you. We now move to agenda item 10. Agenda item 10 is asking members to consider the final proposals for local government reorganisation across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. May I ask Isabel Edgar to present the report as the Director of Operations?
Thank you, Chair. So the report outlines the local government reorganisation process and summarises the work undertaken by all councils affected by LGR in our region. 5 separate unitary proposals, options A to E, have been developed by different councils. And officers at this council have been working closely with Cambridge City and South Cambs District Council to develop the proposal known as option B. Members may be aware that Cambridgeshire County Council has agreed to submit option A to government. Since the agenda was published, several other neighbouring councils have also reached decisions, and I'll take this opportunity to update council on these. So Fenland and Peterborough councils have confirmed their support for submission of option D. Huntingdonshire District Council has put a recommendation to their cabinet in support of option E, and the final decision will be taken by their cabinet on the 24th of November. Cambridge City and South Cambridge District Council have indicated their support for option B, with final decisions expected today and on the 24th of November, respectively. It's important to note a council can only submit one proposal. As things currently stand, there is one council formally supporting option A and 2 councils formally supporting option D. Members should note that it is likely at this stage that option C will not be submitted, as there are currently no councils that have indicated their preference for this option. So in conclusion, members are recommended to confirm whether they wish to endorse one of the proposals or none of them, and to delegate responsibility for finalising the chosen proposal along with the joint covering letter to the Chief Executive, the Leader and the Deputy Leader of the Council. Thank you.
Councillor Bailey, are you happy for us to just take a moment to distribute the motion to members, please? Can members indicate if they don't have one, please? Has everyone got one? Thank you. May I have a proposer for this?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I'd like to move the motion as altered. So, to be clear, the alteration to the 3 recommendations, 2.1 stands as in the original paper. 2.2 will read to endorse option B for submission to government by 28th November 25, and 2.3 reads to delegate authority to the Chief Executive in consultation with the Leader and Deputy Leader of the Council and the Leader and Deputy Leader of the Liberal Democrat and Independent Group to finalise the draft business case and a joint covering letter for submission of the Council's preferred proposal to government.
Thank you. And do you have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
And you reserve your
I
right?
reserve my right.
Thank you. I'm also aware that there is an amendment, but what we will do is move to the proposer to speak first and then move to the amendment. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to place on record my thanks to Isabel and Annalise in particular, all officers of course. We've attended dozens of meetings collectively, and Isabel's expertise has been absolutely invaluable in this process. And I'd like to thank all the leaders across Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. We've worked in a spirit of cooperation, and it's been a real pleasure to work with them. And I'd also like to thank our Option B partners. This has been a cross-party effort with Lib Dems, Labour and Conservatives coming together in a common cause. In fact, Option B is the only business case that's been written by the councils themselves. All the others have been written by consultants. It's no secret that I'd prefer we weren't in this position, and I think that's a sentiment that we all share across this chamber. But here we find ourselves, and Isabel already outlined where we are with the business cases with other councils, so I won't do that again. Of course, all the options have advantages and disadvantages, but I don't believe that D and E meet the government's criteria, and I think that A and B are the most likely to succeed. The public survey carried out by all 7 councils found that 81% of respondents from East Cambs are worried about being overlooked in this reorganisation. It also showed that East Cambs residents hugely value the way our council delivers services and runs the organisation. East Cambs consistently scored the highest on nearly every measure. I do therefore feel it's incumbent on us to find ways to protect what matters to our residents. Option A is only supported by 1 council. Option B has had input from 6 councils. And I have to say, I am shocked that the County Council administration placed their members in the position of voting on a business case that they hadn't seen, and the public still hasn't seen it. And I do think the County Council's support for Option A was, and frankly still is, extraordinarily fragile. Reorganisation instinctively feels like it's about geography, and much has been made of the fact that East Cambs residents look to Cambridge. And of course it's absolutely true, with many residents accessing work, education, health and leisure in the city. It's also worth noting from this survey that over 50% of residents run their lives inside the district. Cambridge will of course still be open and accessible to East Cambs residents, just as it is now, regardless of the outcome of the reorganisation. That doesn't change. Option B proposes 2 councils based on 2 nationally significant economies. In the north, agriculture, advanced manufacturing, logistics, green industries. In the south, the innovation cluster, a global centre for science, technology and research. These 2 new councils will both rank among the top 20 local economies in the UK. They'll be balanced, mutually reinforcing and equally influential within the combined authority. Option B is all about budgets, decisions and services being delivered locally, here in East Cambridgeshire. It's the best way to preserve what our residents value. Option A supporters say that the Northern Unitary in Option B is too big, and in fact it's smaller in geography and population than the current county council. Option A, with its 2 smaller unitary authorities, would see East Cambs being dominated by Cambridge. Services and focus will be pulled to Cambridge for East Cambridgeshire. Option B places East Cambs in an area where rural voices are aligned and will be dominant. Option A risks underinvestment in the rural economy. And Option A is economically imbalanced between the 2 councils. Under the government's fair funding review, East Cambs in the new Northern Authority in Option B will start life with an additional £50.5 million every year, whereas Option A would see us in an authority receiving 15.8 million less every year. Option B is expected to make 4 times the savings of Option A. And Option B has the best ability to cope with inherited debt with a lower debt ratio than Option A, and Option B sees the lowest average rise in council tax for East Cambs residents. The biggest thing, Greater Cambridge is earmarked for massive housing growth, 150,000 new homes on top of the local plan. Their emerging local plan is already suffering setbacks with the recent loss of large housing sites. And of course, East Cambridgeshire has significantly lower land prices and less constraints. Under Option A, East Cambs will fall into the Greater Cambridge local plan footprint. Housing need will be recalculated across the new planning area. It's not only inevitable that the new authority will look to sites in East Cambs for delivery of large numbers of new homes, which are likely to be in the south. It's explicitly stated throughout the County Council's Option A business case. They make a virtue of it. And worse, Option A would also see the government through the Cambridge Growth Company rather than local people deciding where those 150,000 new homes will be located. So for all these reasons and more, I will be supporting Option B this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. Councillor Dupre, would you like to propose your amendment and confirm what that amendment is, please?
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move our amendment, which, given what has just been circulated, is, I believe, simply to delete the letter B in 2.2 and insert the letter A. So do you want me to speak now to that, or do you...
Can I just confirm your seconder, please?
Seconder.
Councillor Inskip, and do you reserve your rights? Yes. Councillor Debray.
Thank you very much. Firstly, can I ask for the extra 40 seconds before the green light starts going on that the Leader of the Council has? Thank you very much. Option A is what a majority of East Cambridgeshire residents want. Over 2/3 of East Cambridgeshire residents responding to the County Council survey said that they supported option A, as did over 60% of residents in Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire and a majority of residents in Peterborough. Option A is supported by City of Ely Council and a group of 16 out of the 19 parish councils in Burwell and Wood Ditton divisions who have written to all members today about their concern at the prospect of losing their historic connections and their ability to be heard and properly represented under any other option. Option A is supported by organisations ranging from Citizens Advice, Cambridgeshire Acre and Anglia Ruskin University to Mind, Care Network and the Middle Level Commissioners. Critically, it's also strongly supported by the local NHS, the Integrated Care Board, Cambridge University Hospitals, North West Anglia NHS Foundation Trust. Option A aligns with how local NHS systems work and will limit disruption for residents supported by high cost and complex services. The chair of the local ICB cluster, Robin Porter, says, "How local government is configured is a crucial factor in how we deliver for our residents together. As an ICB, we are keen to see the local government footprint in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough reflect the existing place-based partnerships within our integrated care system. These have been designed around the differing needs of our population and their health utilisation flows. The proposed option A is coterminous with these place-based partnerships for the north and south of the area and would, we feel, best enable further joint planning and integration of health and care services at place and neighbourhood levels." But this isn't just about what's popular. The government's recent decision on arrangements for Surrey went with the option supported by fewer than 1 in 5 of the population. It's about what best meets the criteria for this exercise laid down by government and about what is best for our area and its residents for the long term. We're being asked for our view on a new structure which is likely to last for the next half century. Option A is the right option in those ways too. Option A offers 2 authorities with a balance of population, size and base budgets, each anchored by a major city. Together, Cambridge, South Cambridgeshire and East Cambridgeshire would be sufficiently large to manage financial shocks and deliver efficiencies through economies of scale. The new authority would reflect the interconnected economies of the 3 districts, our historic identities and the patterns of our residents' daily lives. Option A would meet the expectation that new unitary councils should have between 30 and 100 councillors, and it allows for more decisions being taken locally with neighbourhood area committees serving populations of potentially around 30,000 residents. Option A involves our area in making decisions about the services we all use: transport, education, health, retail, leisure. Residents will still gravitate to Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire for those things and will still use those facilities, whatever option the government chooses. But with option A, our voice is part of shaping those decisions, not standing by while they are made for us. Option A is our way to have our say on the things that matter. Our grandchildren won't forgive us if we condemn East Cambridgeshire to 5 decades on the sidelines. I leave the last words in this part of what I say this evening to those parish councils in East Cambridgeshire who have written to us today. And they say the alternatives to option A place us with remote areas we have no ties to and ignore or downplay existing infrastructure, education, health and social care provision and community processes, leaving us deeply concerned for the standard of service the new local government for our communities would receive were an alternative option to be chosen. Don't let them down today. Please vote for option A.
Thank you, Councillor Debray. I now open up to any other speakers, and just a reminder that we are speaking to the amendment. Is there anyone who wishes to speak? Councillor Lee.
Thank you, Chair. Within my ward, which is the Wood Ditton ward, we are the most far outreached ward from the city of Ely. And we have gone through in each of the parish councils, both option A and option B. And we have spent some time considering what we want as parish councils. And Ashley voted for option A, Borough Green voted for option A, Cheveley voted for option A, Dullingham voted for option A, Kirtling and Upend voted for option A, Stetchworth voted for option A, and Wood Ditton voted for option A. The 7 parish councils in my ward all want us to vote for option A and not option B. We feel option B will make us further away from the centre of what happens and how we are controlled. Peterborough is so far away from Wood Ditton, we might as well. It's so far away. There is nowhere further within East Cambs than the Wood Ditton ward from Peterborough. And I strongly suggest to you that we should follow our parish councils, the 7 of them, and vote for option B. Sorry, vote for option A.
Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Vellacott.
I wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Lay. Well, this is the shortest amendment in my time as a district councillor with perhaps the biggest impact. Look, members are going to struggle to fully analyse option A. We've had 47 hours, that's all the respect we were given, and it's not even published yet. It didn't stop me, of course, I've read it multiple times. We all know I'm not a normal 21-year-old. So when the opposition said this council should work on option A, I really agree, even though I don't personally wish to endorse it. A lot of residents do, and we did want to. But Cambridgeshire County Council shut everyone out, and when they approved it, their councillors, as I understand it, hadn't seen it either. But the document confirms that option A has 3 times the median council tax rise for the median resident that option B does. A lower maximum is of no comfort to the average person. It ignores the breadth of localised working that we propose in option B. Option B goes much further on localised, patch-based delivery of service and working. Option A, the business case somehow sort of conveniently ignores that 150,000 additional homes are proposed by government. They're saying sort of in the same breath, East Cambs is essential for Greater Cambridge's growth, presumably because our housing land is cheaper. And I say back to them, well, how can we be the spare part of Greater Cambridge and also absolutely pivotal to its success? Government don't agree that Greater Cambridge isn't big enough to take it in terms of the development, and I don't either. And as for saying there are integrated services, those services are not integrated with East Cambridgeshire. We would be being shoehorned into them. I don't agree with the notion that we would immediately slip into the practices that already exist, because they exclude us at present. It makes a good point about the ICS healthcare boundaries. It's a really rare advantage of option A, but I fully acknowledge that. But the Health Minister has been incredibly clear that these can and very much will change with local government reorganisation, and ICBs are changing alongside this anyway. We don't know what the future picture of neighbourhood health looks like on that basis. The fact that it claims East Cambridgeshire is not in the FENS-based economy and our main industries are innovation and technology rather than farming and agritech is just ludicrous. Go and stand around Forth Drove in Councillor Bailey's patch and tell me it's not in the FENS-based economy. It absolutely is. They've made a big deal out of budget differences between A and B. We have lower deprivation in East Cambridgeshire, and under option A, the Northern Council would pin the higher deprivation concentrated into one area. I don't see that that's particularly fair. It says that 33% of residents in East Cambridgeshire look to Cambridge for their shopping and leisure, and therefore that means people want those boundaries. No, it doesn't. Over half of them stay in East Cambridgeshire. It means they don't want Cambridge or Peterborough. I agree. Neither is good. I don't particularly like option B, but they surely would then prefer highly localised working and planning that takes place under option B rather than being run directly by Cambridge. There's been a straw man throughout this, that working Cambridge, looking to Cambridge, Loving Cambridge, as I do, is not the same as wanting our home to be run like Cambridge. This has been the broad leap taken in the Option A business case, and I think any case leaves us far apart from the far reaches of the council boundaries. I would say, in Option A, Wicken and Gamlingay have very little association either. I truly recognise that some people want Option A. I can see why, but it does not tally with the major priority of local people: localised working, local decision-making, local planning, especially on matters like planning. And in addition, the support for it in Huntingdonshire and Fenland appears to be through the floor, so we can't take one district over the other on that one. The case also sort of curiously claims that Peterborough's Option D case identified A as the best business case. They really did not. On many metrics, including on financial resilience, they actually posit B as the best. They don't endorse Option A. They also don't endorse Option D, which is quite funny, in the Option D business case, but there you go. And yes, sort of both the surveys that have been referenced tonight were sort of biased in language. They didn't have to be, but when Cambridgeshire County Council came out and did it, it was only fair to put one that was also slanted towards B. But our survey did show a small majority in favour of Option B. A letter received by members this morning requested that we listen to our communities. Well, Wickham Parish Council in my patch supports Option B. Soham has had enough of housing, and most of my residents want things to be as similar as possible to how they are now, with East Cambs as part of a distinct rural economy. Option A is not the answer which provides that, and I will have to vote against this amendment.
Thank you. Councillor Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I was interested to see Councillor Lay talking in favour of democracy, and he went through 7 parish councils who wanted to go with the A option. I seem to remember 2 years ago the people of those parishes voted for a Conservative district councillor, and so surely he should take notice of that. I think it's a very valid point. It's true, isn't it, that we do look to Cambridge. We look to Addenbrooke's, we look to shopping, we look to, in many cases, education. But the point is, if we go to Option B, all those things stay the same. They're all the same. You'll still go to Addenbrooke's if you're ill. You'll still get your people going to the various sixth form colleges and the universities. Of course you will. So nothing will change except what's at risk. Free car parking. I represent villages like Witchford and Streatham and Wilburton and Little Thetford. And they all come into Ely to do their shopping. And they all love the free car parking, which no doubt would disappear if we got involved with the gang that wants congestion charging. And I believe that the people who we represent like free car parking. They like free green wheelie bins. They like the fact that council tax hasn't gone up for 12 years, and they don't like the congestion charge. So I believe, although people do look to Cambridge, that won't change. But what it will change is the pockets of the people we represent. We're here to represent our residents, and we're trusted, and I think to go anything other would be a betrayal of that trust. I think it's good to say that East Cambs is big enough to cope, but small enough to care, and I certainly will be going along with Plan B. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Trapp.
Thank you very much. Reading that excellent newspaper, the Ely Standard, I came across a passage where it said, larger is not better, local is better. And I read the article a bit further, and it was going for Option B. And I was wondering about this. I mean, larger is not better. Well, Option B is larger. The Option A is actually equal sizes, and in a sense, we would be getting, or our residents would be getting something like a quarter of the votes, which is quite a lot of influence in a council. as opposed to, say, something like 1/6 if you do the arithmetic. So this is something that we should be considering where our interests lie. The other thing is that if you look at the pages 107, 108, with the little diagrams there, the commuting from East Cambridgeshire is almost wholly into South Cambs or the city. So that is also quite important. And when I commuted into Cambridge, I would also do my shopping there, I'd get my interests there, and I'd get all my cultural things, life there as well. 108 shows something about the shopping catchment areas, and that is wholly Cambridge for this area. I know there's people come to Ely as well, which is wonderful, but also on the whole for bigger shops, it will be there. The other thing is, of course, transport links, and I'm not sure if I saw the transport links in that document, but the East-West Railway is coming right through us. It's going to be part of us. And also, we should be adding onto the Oxford-Cambridge arc. That is coming for us. It's something that we really ought to be looking into and being part of. The other thing is, mention was made about the the Greater Cambridge, or whatever it is, South Cambs and Cambridge, not being rural. Well, actually, if one looks at a map of the county, one sees that South Cambs is very rural, and I know several farmers there who yes, they do. Don't look at me so quizzically, Councillor Vellacott. So in terms of farming, there's just as much farming there per acre or as a percentage as there is in Fenlands, not in Fenland, sorry, in East Cambs. So I don't think we can just say one's urban and one's rural. Both are actually part of the same kind of mix.
Thank you, Councillor Trapp. Councillor Kane.
Thank you. I am a little confused about the argument that we've heard tonight, because most of the people opposite have said that nothing will change in terms of where we access whichever option we go for. But Councillor Vellacott actually said something very interesting. He said that the health service might well change to reflect the boundaries that we go for. So since we're currently looking to Addenbrooke's, I think it's quite worrying if we were to go for a boundary that might see us having to look elsewhere. But more to the point, I don't think our parish councils really believe that if we go for option B, they won't be able to get into Cambridge. What they're really saying, which is extremely intelligent and important, is because they're largely looking to Cambridge, they want to be able to have influence over the decisions that are made there, the decisions that will affect their lives. And as we've heard from Councillor Trapp, they will be roughly a quarter of the councillors in that unitary. They would have significant influence on what happens in that area, instead of being a much smaller influence in the larger Peterborough area, but worse still, no influence on the Cambridge area. So I think that's really worrying. And I think it's very interesting that we heard from Councillor Lay about all the parishes in his ward, I believe he said, who are voting for option A. As I understand it, Councillor Sharp is also the district councillor for those parishes, and no doubt he has been listening carefully to their views. I have also listened to the views of the parish councils in my ward, and again, they have all voted for option A, having looked very carefully at the various options and the impact on their communities, as indeed have several people from those communities who've contacted Councillor Trapp and I directly about their deep concerns about option B and how they really feel that option A is the option that will give them the most influence about the area in which they work, they go for leisure, and they go for hospital services, and indeed, say, over the transport networks, which is going to be really, really important in the new structures. So personally, I'll be voting for option A. I'm lucky, all my parish councils support that, so I'm also able to say I support my parish councils. I realise that's a challenge for Councillor Sharp, and I hope he will find himself able to support his parish councils just as Councillor Lay is. So I shall be voting for option A.
Point of personal explanation, Chair.
Yep.
Thank you. I did not refer to healthcare delivery catchments. I referred to ICS areas, two of which cover the whole region anyway.
Catherine House. Thank you, Chair. Cambridge is a local powerhouse. It's an internationally renowned centre of research and development, and basically halfway over the world, if you say you're from Cambridge, people's faces light up in recognition. Peterborough, not so much. Whichever way we turn at this point, what happens in Cambridge will determine what happens in East Cambridgeshire, to a much greater degree than what happens in Peterborough could ever aspire to. We're not going to get out of Cambridge's centre of gravity, even if we choose to ignore them, because they are our next neighbours. The geographical situation is not going to change, and Cambridge is not going to cease being Cambridge. So, for me, we can make a choice whether we want to be an active participant in our future, in its planning and implementation, and whether we want to have a say in how the benefits and burdens of the future development that is coming one way or another are carried and distributed. Or we can pretend that if we turn away from Cambridge and South Cambs, their decisions will have nothing to do with us, and their influence will end on the new unitary boundary. I think that's short-sighted. Cambridge already determines all sorts of things for us. The raise of house prices in Ely, the pressures on the water supply and road infrastructure. And this is not going to change. This is only going to intensify. So in accord with the City of Ely Council, I vote that we take our future actively in our own hands and choose option A. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. I get the geography of this in terms of everybody's looking towards, from my ward towards Cambridge, but that's just looking at one aspect of it. We're always going to be an extremity, certainly in South East Cambridgeshire. If we went into Suffolk, if Newmarket boundary got sorted, we'd still be in the extremity of Suffolk. So whatever happens, we were going to be in an extremity. And it's not just looking at the finances of the two options. Geography is not the only answer. Cambridge City and South Cambs don't want us. You look at the, as I call it, the Jason and Kylie video, Cameron Holloway and Bridget Smith. You could almost imagine Jason and Kylie in their places. It's just hilarious. And then if you look at the County Council debate a few weeks ago, Alicia Machini, the leader of the Labour Party group was vehemently, well, it was appalling, some of the things she was saying about East Cambs in terms of the planning team and everything else, which were totally untrue. And at least two of her colleagues weighed in behind it. I fear for my area, if we're going to become a building site for Greater Cambridge. The chairman of the Greater Cambridge Development Corporation, made the comment a few weeks ago in his submission to the Camborne to Cambridge busway about if that doesn't go ahead, then a lot of the development won't happen. And this is the £200 million monstrosity that's been pushed on Cambridge by the GCP and Cambridge County Council, when there is an equally acceptable scheme that will cost 20 million. So I have concerns about it. I mean, another, you know, I jokingly mentioned Borough Green City. If those of you have seen the Forest City proposal, admittedly that's come from two individuals, which I hope is not supported by anybody, but it just racks it up. And then I touch on, yes, it's been debated in my parish councils. I certainly have spoken to all of those parish councils. And there was a call organised 2 or 3 weeks ago by the two county councillors who produced this letter. I don't know what they were afraid of, in that they purely wanted people on that call who were in support of that. I wasn't invited. So, you know, what... It almost, you know, are they not happy with democracy? Do they not want an opposition view on what they're saying, to question and challenge? And then, as the county councillor for the Wood Ditton division has said in all of the parish council meetings to my parishes, this is not about what you're voting for. This is just to get option A on the list to be considered. That's what he has said on a number of parishes. And I'll quite happily say it to him if he was standing here. That's what he said. So a lot of my parishes are torn by this, really. I was talking to the chairman of one of the parish councils yesterday, and they're not happy. They've voted, they've gone with the geography, but they've not really been able to look at the business plan. I mean, as Councillor Vellicott said, technically the business plan is not even in public domain yet. So it's absolutely crazy how the county council could have voted on it a few weeks ago, and now we've not been, you know, members of the public. Because one of my biggest beefs about the whole process has been that it's been ill thought through by a government who just looked at it as a way of saving money, I think. And it's not devolution, because there's going to be more powers going to the mayor, less powers to the councils. So I'm not happy with most of this. As it is, I would vote for option, as my colleague here said, I think option F, which is do nothing. We were saying earlier on.
Councillor Sharp, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, but you know, to say that option, the geography is the easiest option, it's not. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Goldsack.
Thank you, Chair. I hate local government reform. I detest it. It's putting man on man, as I said it would 3, 4, 5 months ago when we first spoke about it. They were my words, and I've been proved correct. Okay, I see merits in option A, I see merits in option B. I'll be honest with you, I'd love option F, right? But I'd stand here today, and at planning this week, last week, there was a quote from the chairman that said, "I think this is the best pick of not a very good bunch." And I think this is another one of those situations. I'm not a real fan of either of them. I hear the arguments. I think it's also interesting that we all come here with an open mind and prepared to listen to the debate and then make our minds up with prepared scripts. Just leave that one hanging, okay? But I think where we're at now is we have a decision to make. My decision would have always been we make this wider, we get talking with Suffolk and Norfolk and we find out what the real powerhouse could be and we do something. Councillor Lay put very eloquently, as did Councillor Sharp, about how they represent their wards. I would suggest to both of them, and I don't think I'd be proved wrong, that if there was a chance to do so, they would align, their wards would align themselves to Newmarket. Not in our county. Through a line on the map, which is wrong. Why hasn't it been included? Now, we can't change that. We really, really can't. We put some debates forward today. I'm going to support the one that I think will give the best benefits and do the least harm to the residents of East Cambridgeshire. And as I've seen it and I've listened to the debate and I've come here with open, these are not prepared notes, that remains to me to be option B. I thank you for the amendment of option A, but it's just not going to stand for me. Thank you.
Are there any more speakers before we move to the second? Councillor Inskip.
Thank you, Chair. Local government performs an essential role, and the current structure of district and county councils hasn't changed in our area for well over half a century. So actually, I do think it's right to review whether there are better ways for councils to be organised, and unitary authorities certainly have their merits. I say that as somebody who was some time ago a councillor in a unitary authority, and I have first-hand experience of the benefits. And I think we can all agree, however, that the way that the government has chosen to do this is wrong. The rushed timescale, the very restrictive guidance that's been imposed by central government isn't going to give us the flexibility to really come out and explore what are the best options. I suspect most of us would agree with that. But it's happening. We know the government is pushing this through. We need to work out within the constraints that the government's proposing the best outcome for our local residents. And I don't think that is pushing East Cambridgeshire into a massive unitary authority centred on Peterborough. Today, we have a county council that meets and makes decisions in a council chamber 26 miles away. Under option B, if a unitary was centred on Cambridge, then actually that distance becomes less. It's 17 miles. Yet if we go with Peterborough, 17 miles from here, if we go with Peterborough, there's some parts of our district where it's 50 or 60 miles away. And decision-making becomes more remote, not closer. And moreover, as Councillor Trapp has said, you know, we've got 90,000 East Cambridgeshire residents who will be a small minority in a council of well over 600,000. The smallest district in the county would be subsumed into the largest council in the country by the number of councillors. We're told that option B better represents the rural nature. But again, let's look at the two options and let's look at where people live. In option A, after Cambridge City, the largest urban area, the largest is Ely. After that, everyone lives in smaller rural towns and villages. In option B, you've got Peterborough itself, much bigger than Cambridge. You've then got Wisbech, March, and Ely itself. More people live in cities and towns. A smaller proportion of people under option B live in rural communities. And option A is what residents have told us they want, not option B. We talked about surveys, and I'll come on to that, but we also had the focus report that was in the agenda pack for the last meeting. And I'll just quote a few things from that. So it's summarised, and it said, residents strongly identify with Cambridge and feel socially, economically and culturally connected to it. They expressed profound opposition to any association with Peterborough, describing it as fundamentally different in character, priorities, safety and community needs. Practical connections reinforce this. Ely to Cambridge is seen as an easy and natural route, whereas travel to Peterborough is considered difficult and disconnected. Cambridge is viewed as a centre for work, commuting, healthcare, we've talked about that, education, particularly sixth form colleges and other tertiary education. And all of those things, this is what the report we had last time, that I hope we all read, actually was telling us this is what was coming out of those focus groups held with residents. And yet, we're trying to push, it seems, the administration are trying to push option B, which effectively takes away any influence that residents in East Cambridge will have over those sorts of facilities that they rely on in Cambridge. This is actually an opportunity to get more influence over those. And if we can look at surveys, we have two surveys, I grant that. One that shows 69% of residents supporting option 1 from the County Council. A district council one that by a small majority, 52 to 48, I won't dwell on those
Councillor
percentages.
Inskip, you have 30 seconds.
Yeah, thank you. Clearly, only came about a really balanced result by priming residents, where we were told, let me quote, option B celebrates everything we know and love about East Cambridgeshire. Housing is controlled, services remain local, the rural voice is heard. You already know, as I've explained, option A supports the rural voice better. The legislation in terms of planning law isn't going to change depending on whether you're in option A or option B. And when it comes to local, there is no getting away from it. The centre in option B is much more remote than it is in option A.
Councillor
None of
Inskip,
those things are true.
Thank you very much. Councillor Bailey is the proposer.
Thank you, Chair. And of course, the trouble is that none of the parish councils have been allowed to see the option A business case. And I suspect that they are blissfully unaware that it offers up East Cambridgeshire as a Greater Cambridge building site. I do want to set out respectfully why option A isn't the right choice for future of local government in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough. Whilst, I can accept that there is a desire in it to create fairness, the evidence shows that it would not deliver the resilient, financially sustainable or future-proof structure for the whole area. I start with population and economic balance because it's absolutely fundamental to the government's criteria. Option A creates 2 new authorities of roughly equal population, but equal population doesn't mean equal strength or opportunity or resilience. England's got unitary authorities that are wildly different in size. Equality of population and landmass between authorities shouldn't be a determining factor in this. Option A pairs Cambridge, one of the fastest growing, highest value innovation economies in Europe, with South Cambridgeshire and East Cambridgeshire, creating a southern authority whose economic growth rate is significantly higher than its northern counterpart. And meanwhile, the Northern Authority pairs Peterborough, Fenland and Huntingdonshire, areas with lower productivity, much higher deprivation and higher service demand. That results in a structure where one council is going to rapidly outpace the other, and the independent analysis all shows in the option B business case that by 2040, the Greater Cambridge area under option A would be nearly 50% larger economically than the Northern Council. That's the very definition of undue advantage. It's exactly what the government guidance warns against. So in other words, option A freezes into place a long-term imbalance, one council with strong growth and a buoyant tax base, and the other left to the wolves really, with high needs, lower incomes, higher deprivation and weaker financial resilience. It's not fairness, it's inbuilt fragility from the start. Financial sustainability, the single most critical test for any reorganisation proposal. Option A simply doesn't meet the threshold of the ambition that's needed. Its projected recurring annual savings are just 12.1 million with a 6-year payback period. It's a small number spread across 2 unitary authorities that would inherit some of the most complex, high-cost children's and adult social care systems in the whole country. And remember, government isn't funding the transition costs. They've got to be met locally. So under option A, the costs are estimated at 35 million for transition and take 6 years to recoup. It's a very long time before residents, staff and services start to see any benefit. If you contrast that with the analysis from option B, it can deliver 3 to 5 times more savings with payback in just 4 years. You can't ignore that difference where in a landscape where every council faces spiralling demand for SEND support, children's placements, homelessness services and adult social care. Every penny counts. Then there's the question of service sustainability. A places enormous weight on aligning with existing NHS integrated care system boundaries, and the alignment obviously has advantages, but it also comes with risk. The NHS boundaries are changing, and designing local government structures around today's mapping will limit our ability to create the right councils of the right size and the right future resilience. More importantly, A doesn't sufficiently address the underlying reality that the Northern Council, under its geography, would inherit the highest levels of deprivation and the most rapidly rising social care costs and the narrowest tax base. It's not a safe foundation for high quality and sustainable public services. Fourth issue is economic coherence. Option A argues that it reflects functional economic areas, notably incorrectly describing the East Cambs economy. The evidence in the option B assessment demonstrates the opposite. Under option A, only around 70 to 75% of working residents would live and work within their new council areas. Under option B, that's 88%. And a fifth issue is that of the housing growth. I've already talked about it. Option A unashamedly throws East Cambs into the Greater Cambridge local plan footprint. It makes a virtue of offering up East Cambridgeshire land for Cambridge overspill development with no local control over where that housing goes. And finally, the combined authority will become a strategic mayoral authority with expanded powers. It needs 2 strong, well-balanced, economically significant partners. But under option A, the Greater Cambridge Unitary becomes the overwhelmingly dominant economic player very quickly, undermining the balanced leadership that the strategic authority model depends on. Option A is insufficiently ambitious, is economically imbalanced, it's financially underpowered, and it's structurally very risky. It embeds inequality rather than overcomes it, and it would leave one half of our region struggling to meet demand while the other speeds ahead, and it turned these CAMs into a building site. We've got a responsibility to choose the option that genuinely secures stronger services, resilient finances, and long-term prosperity across our whole geography. Option A is not that.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We now move to the vote on the amendment. Can I ask all those in favour of the amendment, please raise their hands. And all those against the amendment, please raise their hands.
That's, the amendment falls, that's 13-12, is that?
Thank you. We now move to the original motion. Do we have any other speakers to the original motion before we move to the seconder? Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. If there's one thing we can agree on about this government's attempt at local government reorganisation, it's that it's a bad process. But having to take part in a bad process does not mean that we should support a bad option. Earlier in this debate, I mentioned the responses to the survey carried out by Cambridgeshire County Council. A smaller number of residents in our district responded to a different survey carried out by East Cambridgeshire District Council. Those residents only marginally favoured option B, but only after they had been told by this council that if they supported option A, the buses wouldn't run on time, their villages would become building sites, and they were basically a bunch of snobs. It was the most disgraceful council propaganda campaign I have ever seen in my 34 years in local government, and even that failed to create a convincing majority for what the leadership of this council is proposing tonight. If they haven't already, the leadership of this council might want to step back for a moment and consider why almost no other council wants us. We know that Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire don't want to be in the same council as us. But Peterborough, that powerhouse to whose wagon the leadership wants to hitch East Cambridgeshire in option B, yet which we hear tonight is so fragile, doesn't want us either. No party on Peterborough City Council, no party at all voted for option B. Nor does Huntingdonshire want us, and tonight they've just said that they want to be left alone. The only council to give us the time of day is a very grumpy Fenland, which voted not for this council leadership's preferred option, but for option D, joining us with Fenland and half of Huntingdonshire, which doesn't meet the government's criteria, nor the view reached by Cambridgeshire's councils that a three-unitary solution would not be sustainable, and it doesn't give us this apparent Peterborough powerhouse either. The submission drawn up by this administration in support of its preferred option is a series of baseless assertions and flawed analyses. It promises low taxes and high spending, speculating wildly about the outcome of the government's fair funding review and making premature assumptions about the way the new councils will decide to harmonise council tax rate, the boundaries of the government's development corporation and pretty much everything else. Its scoring of the options doesn't match the views of other authorities, including Peterborough, whose officers scored option A as the only option to fully meet the government's criteria. Option B will place East Cambridgeshire in a unitary council, which will be the largest in the entire country in terms of councillor numbers, and then tells us we will have a stronger voice. Under option B, we would represent just 15% of the population of this new mega council, run from miles away, whereas under option A, we would be over 22% of the population in our new council, with greater numbers, greater influence and greater access to the place where decisions will actually be made. Option B would send residents from our southern villages on a 120-mile round trip if they wanted to attend a council meeting in Peterborough. Residents of East Cambridgeshire may still be able to access education to Cambridge, that is true, but there's no certainty about that, and at the very least, eligibility for home-to-school transport would be a real issue. Option B tears up our historic and practical connections, our sense of place, and our ability to influence the places where we work, study, shop, socialise, and receive our healthcare. It's bad for us, It's bad for the rest of Cambridgeshire and Peterborough.
Thank you. Councillor Vellacott.
Thank you, Chair. This is obviously a very emotive and political issue. Nobody wants this. I would love to abstain under duress, but unfortunately that's not fair on residents. And the harshness and frankly deliberate misinterpretation about our conduct from Councillor Dupre are not in the spirit of what we are set by our residents here to do. So I'll explain to them. I think we approached it in the way that Councillor Dupre has elucidated. Here's how we approached our group meeting. We sat down in this very room and we ranked the three options as there were at the time by all the criteria in the world. I think it took Councillors Huffer and Bailey about half an hour to add up all the scores. And guess what came out? Option C. Option C. We looked at option C, very closely followed by option B. And we were looking at pursuing C when South Cambridgeshire, run by the Liberal Democrats, and Cambridge City, run by Labour, said we share your vision for two distinct economies and two distinct sets of service needs and such like. So we worked with really unlikely partners to get to this point today. It's the only truly cross-party proposal, which I really welcome. We all, on this side, came out with option B individually, not whipped, I'll leave that there, after realising that multiple authorities wanted it. Cambridgeshire County Council worked with no one, we worked with everyone. And Councillor Dupre says we'll have access under option A to the place that all decisions are made. Yeah, Cambridge. I don't want decisions about East Cambridgeshire to be made in Cambridge as far as possible. I want them to be made with thorough informants by East Cambridgeshire. And under B, with our intense proposals for localised working and planning, we will have that. We will not have rule by Peterborough. Indeed, who's saying that the council would be in Peterborough at all? We'll avoid rule by a city under option B. We'll have two distinct economies. We'll have the median council tax lower. We'll have housing realistic and in keeping with East Cambs. I do say to supporters of option A that option B will keep a relationship with Cambridge which doesn't involve governing our home like Cambridge, and it will avoid impact by Peterborough on the same scale that we would have impact by Cambridge. It's not a great option. It's not a great option, but it protects the central tenets of life in East Cambs, and it leaves, as best we can, a legacy from this council as well. The best option, of course, I think, is option W, which puts Wicken as its own unitary authority. But the point is we can't do that. We have to go with something in front of us. Maybe I'll publish my business case for that 47 minutes before the deadline or something. But look, whether it's my future self or someone else, or from my party or theirs who represents Soham South and Wicken next, I want whoever takes over to have the tools to build something right for my residents, something which they're screaming out to me is we want something like we have now. And I'm privileged to have a vote on this tonight. I recognise actually not many young people will have the chance to have a vote on this tonight. And I'll vote for option B, not necessarily for myself or for any kind of allegiance, but for the residents who've told me what they want and trusted me to take that forward. All the late nights reading business cases and watching full council meetings across this county have led me to that decision tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Horgan.
Thank you, Chair. As we all agree, the haste with which the government is driving this monumental change to our local authority structures is undeniably rushed and risks decisions made with limited or little validated information. One question I have asked myself is, would I want to be in a party or be party to a group or unitary authority that clearly doesn't want us? As we know, along with East Cambridgeshire District Council, South Cambridgeshire District Council and Cambridge City Council are also contributing to the business case for option B. This option combines South Cambs and Cambridge City Councils in one unitary authority, and East Cambs in a second, along with Fenland, Huntingdon District Councils and Peterborough. To my mind, this clearly indicates that the two partners Cambridgeshire County Council wants to place us with simply don't want us, as Councillor Sharp alluded to. They prefer to go it alone. When you add that option B results in the lowest increase in council tax for our residents, coupled with a larger increase in our funding receipts and one of the shortest, if not the shortest, payback times, then it's clear which option I should be voting for. Thank you.
Councillor Trapp.
Thank you very much. I did look at the business case, and I thought it was a good attempt with a very poor hand. I don't think it was really a business case. There was a lot of assertions. I didn't see much evidence for some of those things. One of the things that struck me there was a council of 125 members. Wow. I mean, that's almost sort of getting onto the House of Commons, which we all know about. But that's quite a lot of councillors, and we would only be actually, for our residents, I mean, not we, because it won't be any more we, there'll be about, I think, about 20 from East Cambs, roughly looking at the numbers. So I don't see why we won't have that much influence, not as much influence as if we were option A. There's the scare story about the housing, the massive amount of housing that might come into East Cambs to our residents if we joined in with option A. But that's only a scare story. In fact, it makes more sense to have the housing near Cambridge, which is what is happening, will be happening, not all over the place, and we would have some say in where to put it. I also have, for instance, I've been consulted on the Newmarket Park and Ride, which is essential for our residents, the change of they're moving the Newmarket Park and Ride to another site. I've been involved in that consultation. We are looking at it actively. And it is important that we engage with this, because that is where, same with the greenways. We've also been involved with all the greenway projects, and that is also important for our residents. Yeah, so I think the business case isn't actually very well written. It's doing the best of a bad job, I think. It's not a good hand to play. If I were in a poker game, I would be folding after the first chips are down. But also, someone said Cambridge and Greater Cambridge is not going to accept us. Well, Peterborough has really said that we don't want East Cambs either. Nor saying Fenland is just about with us. Well, that's great. Huntingdon don't want to be with us either. So 2 of the councils that we have will be, we're trying to join. I don't want us. So there we are. So the other thing is, of course, the debt. I'm not sure how the debt will be. The county council does have a debt, so most of the other district councils also have a debt. But I suppose if the debt were apportioned according to population, the more debt would accrue towards the option B Northern Cambridgeshire Council. So that's also something that perhaps one ought to be in favor. Right. So I can't support option B. None of my wards want it. They all look to Cambridge. They're all involved in Cambridge. They travel there, and mostly, and that is that. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kane.
Yes, I'm sorry that Councillor Horgan is going to be disappointed if he doesn't want to go into a unitary with councils that don't want him, because, as we've heard, Peterborough doesn't want East Cambs, Huntingdon doesn't want East Cambs. So whichever option you go for, you're going to be in with people who don't want to be in with East Cambs. But the main thing I wanted to pick up on is that we've there's been some discussion this evening about how we're a very rural district and how important farming is, whereas Cambridge and South Cambridgeshire is a cutting-edge, scientific, moving forward place. That is a false description of this district. We do indeed have a lot of farmers. We are part of the breadbasket of England. We are very important for our farming industry. But we also have someone who's doing surgical robotics, someone who's doing cutting-edge medical testing that people can do at home, someone who got the King's Award for Innovation because they make crucibles out of such specialist material that it is internationally under international demand, because nobody else has worked out, for example, how to make crucibles that can withstand being in a nuclear reactor. So we do have in this district a lot of really innovative businesses which again often spin out from Cambridge and often work with industries in Cambridge as part of developing their business. So don't go away with the idea that we don't have cutting edge, really high quality scientific industries in this district, because we absolutely do. And I do worry about how well they will prosper if we are not in option A with the City of Cambridge.
Thank you. Councillor Miller. Did you have your hand up? Sorry, apologies. Councillor Sharp.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try and not repeat what I said earlier. I mean, only 5 minutes really doesn't allow me to scratch the surface of this issue of local government reorganisation. But we've always punched above our weight and fought our corner in this district, and I think we will carry on doing that. And as Councillor Vellacott says, we don't know where the centre is going to be of whatever unitary authority we end up with. I would certainly want Ely to be one of those. The process has been introduced, as we've all said, by government, which is not thought through and with no real opportunity for residents to have their say. It was an attempt to save money with no consideration for meaningful improvements in local representation, in my opinion. If anything, this coupled with extra powers going to the mayor means we get even less reduction in local accountability. However, government have decided, so we've got to react and make the best of a bad job, or taking Councillor Hunt's point from an earlier item, a bad or a very bad job. And I think government are making a very bad job of this. In my area, as I've said earlier, there's been a lot of discussion. The county councillor has pushed a solution based on geography, without any data or without any financial options on the table. My parishes have not seen any of the detail of that, which I think is how you can vote for that without seeing the detail. I don't know. I'd have a bit more understanding of the credibility of it if the details have been published. I have tried to give my parishes some financial information and push the logic of looking at it from a financial point of view, not just geography. As I've said before, we're always going to be at the extremity of any unitary, and I do take my colleague Councillor Goldsack's point that I think, yes, I think even James and I would agree we'd vote for Newmarket, being part of joining in with them, whatever county that put us in, because that would be another issue, because I know Suffolk colleagues would love it all to join together in Suffolk, and I think I'm on the opposite. I would like it all to join together in Cambridgeshire. But that option isn't on the table, which I think is one of the biggest frustrations of this whole process, to be honest, for me. But, sorry, I've already mentioned that, so I won't go on. I mean, the local plan for South Cambridgeshire and Cambridge City is now pushing, I saw it a couple of days ago, 77,000 houses. And that's without the Greater Cambridge Development Corporation. The planning team in South Cambs and Cambridge City have been very aggressive over the last few years in building on farmland, etc., around Cambridge. And I know that from one landowner who I know very well. They've been trying to get their land for a number of years. However, we have debated this tonight and disagreed and agreed on various things. Yet, ultimately, it's not our decision. This will be decided by a government minister. So hopefully they will have listened to the debate, but I doubt they will have done, because I think they've probably made up their mind already. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Sharp. Are there any other speakers before we go to the seconder? Councillor Huffer.
Thank you, Chair. Well, we've heard much tonight about the importance of Cambridge and the insistence that most of our residents either work or use the City of Cambridge for leisure or health or whatever. Well, it's not going to go away. Option B doesn't prevent that. There is not going to be a border between a crossing patrol border where you have to show your passport or your address or identification in order to be able to access Cambridge. It's still going to be there. Businesses will be able to interact and flourish within Ely and within Cambridge. It doesn't make any difference. You're shaking your head, Councillor Inskip. Why would it be any different? Explain why Cambridge, because we don't get into bed with South Cambs and City, why anything would change in terms of business interaction or anything else. Absolutely ridiculous. But what people...
Point of order. Was that a request for Councillor Inskip to give that explanation? Because I'm sure if it was, he would be very happy to do so.
It was a fleeting remark because he was shaking his head. I think you both know that, as you've been shaking your head constantly, Councillor Dupre.
Councillor Huffer, if I can ask you to read your...
Sorry. What will not be available, and what most people fear most, is losing an accessible base for those who need it when they need assistance. One of our strengths in East Cambs is our accessibility, and it's something we need to fight for. When I listen to the arguments for option A, I don't think I've heard any explanation of the 150,000 houses promised by the Cambridge Growth Company, on top of, I've just discovered now, the 77,000 in the South Cambs and City local plan, bringing a staggering total of 227,000 houses in that area. Rumours abound of new towns. The most recent one, as Councillor Sharp alluded to, is in the area of Borough Green and Brinkley. 1,000 houses will knock a great chunk off the total and stagger concrete all over more precious farmland. If we get dragged into option A, our voices will go unheard. Our residents' voices will go unheard. Residents in South Cambs and City are already being ignored by some elected members over the absurd 4 days work for 5 days pay. Who believes for a minute that any of our residents will have a say in where resources or house is going if we join the South Cambs and City marriage? Who wants to be a third wheel in somebody else's marriage? Option B delivers on all fronts for our residents, and that's surely why we're here in the first place, to serve them, not ourselves or our political ambitions. Option B will deliver local offices, lower debt burdens, the lowest increase in council tax, more funding and more understanding of how rural communities work. I appreciate the final decision is not ours to make, but I can't be the only person in this room who sees the irony of some Liberal Democrat county councillors voting for option A at the county council meeting, even though they hadn't seen the business case, and then returning to South Cambs and City and voting for option B. They're happy in their own established relationship. So, along with South Cambs and City District Councils, it's option B for me, on behalf of my residents who want to continue to have a local presence and have their opinions and voices heard. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Huffer. Councillor Bailey.
Thank you, Chair. The reality is that support amongst councillors for option A is extraordinarily fragile, and I noted that their own motion had to be amended, and it basically said how awful it was in order to get it through at the county council. And the reality is, as we've said, Chair, that councillors haven't been allowed to see option A when they voted on it. And they are now changing their mind in their droves back at the district councils when they're double hatters. A lot of store has been put in the information that came from the surveys. 372 East Cambridgeshire residents responded to the county council survey, and with 67 supporting option A after option A had been promoted to them. That is 0.27% of the population of East Cambridgeshire. And a similar number, 249, responded to East Cambs survey with 52% supporting option B. The reality is that these are microscopically small sample sizes, and they are in no way statistically valid, and you cannot put them front and centre of decision making in any way. I think it's very disrespectful to talk about the communications from this council as basically telling everybody that they're snobs. I don't think that's respectful debate, and I think it's let down this evening, sadly. Councillor there was talk about speculation about fair funding, as though we'd somehow invented these figures. It was independent analysis that was given to all the councils and agreed by all the councillors that information was based on. And who says this council in option B, Northern Territory, will be in Peterborough? Nobody has said that. Nobody. It would be madness to put it in Peterborough. That will be for the new unitary to decide. And Councillor Trapp was saying that the alarmist stuff about the additional housing in East Cambridgeshire is somehow a scare story. It is not, Councillor Trapp. I don't think perhaps you've had time to read the option A business case. It is implicit and built throughout the entire business case that option A is offering up East Cambridgeshire as additional housing land.
Point of explanation, please.
Councillor
I did not say that that was the scare stories that all those houses might be coming into this district. That's what I said. The scare story is not about the number of houses, but where they might be located and where we might actually make an influence.
For clarity, the option A business case is built on the fact that additional housing will be coming to East Cambridgeshire. That is what it's built on. It runs throughout the business case, Councillor Trapp, I assure you. I noted down every single instance of it. So today, colleagues, we've got an opportunity to make a choice that is going to shape the future of local government in Cambridgeshire and Peterborough for a generation. And honestly, that choice is option B. It's not what I want. This is not, you know, if I had my way, East Cambs would be a unitary. I think we'd do it really well, but that's not on the cards. Option B replaces the 7 existing councils with 2 new resilient and future-proofed unitary authorities designed around the realities of our region's economies, our communities and the challenges that lie ahead. I've talked about the economy. This will be 2 councils with distinct but complementary economies. Talked about the north and the south and how they work together. And those 2 new councils would both rank among the top 20 local economies in the entire UK, and it would be balanced, mutually reinforcing and equally influential within the combined authority. And crucially, this option avoids that imbalance that is built into option A, where one council becomes overwhelmingly larger or more dominant or more successful, skewing economic opportunity for decades across the region. And option B gets that balance right. Financial resilience. Every council in our region is under pressure. Rising demand, increasing costs, national funding system that doesn't reflect our challenges. Option B passes the government test most strongly. The independent analysis using real data from every council shows that option B delivers substantial and achievable savings. 42.8 million in the base case, 57.3 million in the stretch case. They aren't speculative numbers. They're built on clear opportunities, reducing duplication, integrating services like social care and housing, improving commissioning power, and modernising how councils operate. It's not about cuts. They're about freeing up resources to invest back into frontline services. And option B puts us in the strongest position to deliver high-quality, sustainable public services. It creates councils that are the right size to meet the rising costs of adult social care. I think I had some of my time stolen, to be fair. Okay. So option B respects and strengthens local identity. It's built around the counties of Huntingdonshire, the Isle of Ely and the Soak of Peterborough. History, look it up. And finally, option B gives us the best platform for devolution, as I mentioned before. Option B is not just an organisational change. It's a strategic choice about the kind of future we want, where it needs to be fair. And I urge you to vote for it tonight and to promote it to the government.
Thank you, Councillor Bailey. We now move to the vote on the motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. And all those against?
It's 13 for and 12 against.
The motion is carried. Before we move to agenda item 11, would everybody like 5 minutes? Yes? Yeah. Oh, may I? Yeah. Can we be back here at 8 o'clock, please? We're ready to resume. Agenda item 11 is asking for the Council to approve the proposed amendments to the Constitution Procedural Rule 12.3 as set out in the report. I ask Jane Webb to speak to this.
Thank you, Chair. Members, this report reflects the amendments to Procedure Rule 12.3 that were requested following discussions at the last Council meeting. The revised wording is included in the report and the Council is asked to approve it. Thank you, Chair.
I will propose this from the Chair. May I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you.
And reserve my right.
Thank you. I don't really have anything further to add on this. Does anyone wish to speak to this? No. Seconder, do you wish to speak to it?
Nothing further.
We move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. That is unanimous. Thank you. Agenda item 12. We now move to agenda item 12A and B, the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authority update reports. These are just for noting. Does anyone have any questions for the representatives on these committees? No? We move to agenda item 13. Agenda item 13 is asking for the Council to endorse the appointment of Emma Grimmer as the Council's Chief Executive as set out in the report. I invite Nicole Pima to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Appointment of the Chief Executive and Head of Paid Service is the responsibility of Council following a recommendation from the Appointments Panel. Interviews for the post of Chief Executive were conducted on the 4th of November. The Appointments Panel recommends the appointment of Miss Emma Grimmer for the post. Members are requested to endorse the appointment of Miss Grimmer as the Council's Chief Executive. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a proposer for this?
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to propose the recommendation and the appointment of Emma Grimmer as the Council's Chief Executive.
I'm happy to second this from the Chair. Councillor Bailey, did you wish to speak to this? No. Does anybody wish to speak to this? Councillor Dupre.
Thank you, Chair. I will speak very briefly to say that we have expressed our grave concerns at this process publicly at the last council meeting, but have done our best to be constructive in circumstances we have not chosen. It would be wrong to drag details of the appointment process onto the floor of this chamber, but while we wish Emma Grimmer well as she takes up her post, I have to say we cannot support the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Dupre. I have no further notes to add, Councillor Bailey. We move to the vote. All those in favour, please raise their hands. All those against? And all those abstaining?
That's 13 for and 12 abstaining.
That is carried. Thank you. Agenda item 14 is asking the Council to endorse the appointment of the Council's Chief Executive as Board Director for ECSS and ECTC from the 1st of January 2026 as set out in the report. I ask Maggie to present the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. I've got nothing to add to the report.
May I have a proposer?
Thank you, Chair. Happy to propose.
And do you have a seconder?
Happy to second, Chair.
Do you reserve your right?
I reserve my right.
Councillor Bailey?
Just very briefly, you know, this is a purely procedural matter because, as it sets out at 3.2, it is indeed a requirement of the role of Chief Executive to serve as Managing Director for ECSS and ECTC.
Does anybody else wish to speak to this? Councillor Dupre?
Thank you, Chair. We've always made our views known about the relationship between the Council and its trading companies and the governance issues and conflicts of interest that this creates. We will not be supporting this as a matter of principle and wait with interest to see how the new Chief Executive and the companies restructure, but we would like a recorded vote on this, please.
Are there any other speakers? Councillor Vellacott?
Just to very briefly say that this is a requirement of the shareholder agreements, and thus far I do not believe that there has been any conflict of interest. I believe the companies have functioned very well, very transparently with the observer system in place as well. And as it is a requirement of those and a requirement under the shareholder agreement of both trading companies, I would view it as grave procedural uncertainty for council to reject this at this time.
Are there any speakers before we move to the seconder? Councillor Huffer.
I have nothing further to say. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Bailey, do you wish to sum up? We now move to the recorded vote, which I will hand over to Jane.
All right, when I read your name out, can you let me know whether you're for, against or abstaining? Councillor Akinwale.
Against.
Councillor Ambrose Smith.
For.
Councillor Bailey.
For.
Councillor Bovingdon.
For.
Councillor Brown.
For.
Councillor Kane.
Against.
Councillor Colbert.
Against.
Councillor Denny.
Against.
Councillor Dupre.
Against.
Councillor Edwards.
For.
Councillor Goldsack.
For.
Councillor Holtzman.
Against.
Councillor Horgan.
For.
Councillor Huffer.
For.
Councillor Hunt.
For.
Councillor Inskip.
Against.
Councillor Lay.
Against.
Councillor Miller.
For.
Councillor Pettit.
For.
Councillor Sharp.
For.
Councillor Trapp.
Against.
Councillor Trent.
Against.
Councillor Vellacott.
For.
Councillor Alison Whelan.
Against.
Councillor Christine Whelan.
Against.
Thank you. That's 13 for and 12 against.
That's carried. Thank you. Just thank everybody for coming to the meeting today. We now close the meeting at 8:10. Thank you very much.